So there's been a lot of advocacy work done regarding the issue of chemical attacks in Syria. And so I've picked 4 different organizations that have somewhat contributed or eradicated the issue in general. So I have the Human Rights Watch, the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, Chemical Weapons No Impunity Organization, and Amnesty International. And so all of these groups have done something for the issue. And so there are some initiatives that I've highlighted in order to just see what all of the organizations have done. So the Human Rights Watch, since Russia was an ally of Syria, they removed Syria from the Security Council veto, meaning that they removed Syria from international scrutiny. After that happened, the Human Rights Watch partnered with other coalition of human rights, humanitarian, and arms control groups in order to get a new investigation done on Syria in order to place attribute responsibility to the group who is responsible of these attacks. The Human Rights Watch organization also continues to report on the attacks made in Syria, and they've also had a hand in urging the CWC, which is the Chemical Weapons Convention, to revisit their original agreement about banning chemical weapons in Syria and strengthening that in the light of these attacks. There's also a Safeguard Chemical Weapons Treaty. This treaty has a variety of advocacy groups signed to strengthen the treaty in order to ban the use of chemical weapons, and those who violate the treaty are responsible. So let me just pull that up real quick. And so the treaty basically works with governments in order to formally report groups or rebel groups that use chemical weapons as war crimes. So yeah, they just help people or help governments in order to formally report them. And there are a bunch of organizations that have signed this. Human Rights Watch has done it, Adopt a Revolution, Amnesty International, and a bunch of others, if you want to check that out in the sources section. And then there's another organization called Chemical Weapons No Impunity. And their organization basically is kind of like a treaty in some form, but it's more of a partnership, and it allies with 40 states and the European Union. Impunity essentially means exemption from punishment from the injurious consequences of an action. So for example, Syria has eluded public scrutiny, international scrutiny of chemical attacks, and so no one has been able to deem the right group responsible. And so this organization works to end that. And so it's an initiative that strives to formally document chemical attacks in accordance with OPCW, who also helps formally destroy harmful chemical weapons, which is the next organization right here. Yeah, so they solely dedicate their efforts to destroying harmful chemical weapons worldwide. And they've done a lot in Syria since the chemical attacks. And they do so by basically, when they are reported, they can essentially go into these countries and destroy any chemical weapons that are being used for war crimes. So yeah, and what I found on the website was that they started this initiative to end chemical weapons or chemical weaponry in Syria around October of 2013. And most recently, January 2016, OPCW completed the disposal of 75 cylinders of hydrogen fluoride at a facility in Texas belonging to the Syrian Arab Republic. The same article states that that many cylinders of hydrogen fluoride was the reported amount that the Syrian Arab Republic reported to OPCW. So, meaning that they basically destroyed and took away all of those chemical weaponry. So yeah, and so those are all of the organizations that have done something in regards to destroying chemical weapons or reporting those responsible groups to international law and or international organization. So we have some discussion questions. You can answer any of these questions in the discussion post related to this. So number one is, should the Syrian government be allowed to have possession of chlorine for cleaning purposes, even though they have been using this chemical against their people? Why do you think the Syrian government has denied their responsibility in these chemical attacks? Who do you think is responsible for the chemical attacks, the rebels or the Syrian government, and why? What action can be taken to limit the practice of stockpiling chemical weapons? Number five is, censorship can be an issue for journalists in Syria. Have you heard about this issue before today? If so, from which news outlet? Was it from the US or from abroad? And number six is, should any country in the UN have the power to block sanctions on a country that is harming and killing their own people? If not, how should the UN address this problem within their organization? And these are our sources if you guys want to check any of these out. Yay!